Lord of the Rings shook the Pauper meta, and buffed cards like Cauldron Familiar, thanks to the introduction of multiple full cards that the set brought, like Lembas, which can be used along with the cat and sacrifice outlets to later get it back from the graveyard. We also pair it with powerful and cheap attackers that can return to the battlefield one way or another, cantrip rocks that provide card advantage with our cat, but more importantly, serve as enablers for our powerful remover, or can be used as fodder for Deadly Dispute and Reckoner's Bargain to draw more cards. Last but not least, Naya Gates is a must-have addition to turn cheap creatures into powerful monsters. In a nutshell, this is Cat Gates. Let's see how it fares against the current Pauper meta. The first game is against Mono Blue Terror, a deck that relies on casting cheap and cantrips to cast 5/5 creatures for 1 mana, but that also runs powerful attackers, as it's the case of Delver of Secrets. Our hand is slow, but we only need a decent amount of mana sources to make our plays run smoothly. They managed to flip a Delver of Secrets and bounce one of my lands, setting me back on my planes a bit, but at least I managed to bring back the cat and attack them for a bit, thanks to Gingerbread. However, they played a Torlarian Terror, which usually will not be a threat against us, but with little mana at our disposal, it becomes hard to beat. I decided to play makeshift munitions as I planned to eventually block and kill the Delver. Unfortunately, they play a second Terror, and after a few turns, I couldn't draw more lands and I had to concede. Now, Cyborg, Pyroblast and Nihil Spellbombs are a great way to handle this deck. Different from our previous hand, this one is great as we have the Sacred Cat Basilisk Gate combo, something that will be somewhat hard to beat by them since mono blue decks usually only have a few ways to interact outside of counters. It's also worth noting that the Nihil Spellbomb plays a massive role against them as it sets them back and prevents them from casting an early Tolarian Terror. They managed to flood the board by chaining multiple spells, but our Sacred Cat could easily outrun whatever threat they presented. Still, since I drew a Deadly Dispute, I decided to loot further into my library to find removal to at least one of the Delver and hopefully draw more gates. This is exactly what happened, and I got to deal cheap damage with the sneaky Gingerbread. On their turn, they got to flip both Delvers and resolve a Tolarian Terror. Still, I wanted to use my Galvanic Blast on the Delver rather than countering the Terror, as Cauldron Familiar can easily block the latter, and I also want to play around Boomerang when I pump my Sacred Cat. I attack with the cat, and as expected, they tried to return it to my hand, and since I denied their plans, they had to double block my cat to at least try to stop the momentum. I played the Embalm token and an Ichor Drinker. They dealt with their cat and attacked for 8, but I took it like a champ, and now it's our turn to attack, and after pumping 2 of our creatures, they scooped the game. I kept a good hand for our final game since I got a Nihil Spellbomb and a couple of gates. As we did on game number 2, I decided to exile their graveyard and slow them down, and they could just pass back the turn, probably holding back Counterspell. I played a Wellspring, but they decided the Gingerbread was a tough one and countered it. The next few turns were just a copy of what happened previously, with the difference that we managed to resolve a creature. They immediately kill it and resolve a Terror, but since they are tapped out, I can now draw multiple cards with Deadly Dispute and finally play a cat. They kill it and attack for 5, followed by resolving another Terror, but since I have enough food available, I can just return the cat and attack it with it on my turn, draw a few cards and add another blocker to minimize the damage. They attack and play 2 more creatures after, but I can put them in a tough spot if I manage to kill the golem, pump the cat and attack again. I wanted to see if they were willing to trade, but they declined, and now they are very close to dying if they are not careful. They were not able to find an answer and conceded the game. Our second match is against Boros Synthesizer, a deck that has benefited the most thanks to the introduction to Lembas, and plays very well with their flyers like Glinthock or Corkscrew Fisher. This is not our hand if we don't draw a Basilisk Gate, but a great one if we do, so it's worth keeping it. After dealing with their only threat, they added 2 more bodies to the field that were difficult to pass, but luckily for us, we did find our Basilisk Gate in time. Now the plan is to round them thanks to Lifelink, and I decided to pump the Ichor Drinker as if they block with the Sacred Cat, I can play the Bound token right away. They play a main deck Relic of Progenitus and pass, and since they have a pay mana, I decided that it was worth developing my board rather than skipping my turn if I pump a creature and they use removal on it in response. As I thought, they had the removal, and proceeded to kill and exile my Ichor Drinker. They play a few more spells and pass. Still, they tap out, which is the perfect opportunity to get a free swing with my cat token and gain more life back. While we are at it, I can now discard a Cauldron Familiar thanks to the Blood Fountain and immediately bring it back to the battlefield. After they play a Corkscrew Fisher, they reveal a Journey to Nowhere and deal cleanly with the Black Cat, but now I decided it was good to try and deal some damage with my token. They took it and now they are dead to Galvanic Blast. In game number 2, We side in or Dankbringer clerics to build their journey to wherever and makeshift munitions if they have it. Besides that, this hand is straightforward, as we develop our board by playing our eggs and keep attacking with gingerbreads here and there. All we need to do now is wait, and with our 4 Basilisk Gates ready, this match looks promising. However, my opponent is not going down easily, as it's been killing my creatures the moment I am trying to pump them. As expected, they are running a makeshift munitions, which can be tedious to play against, so I used the cleric to remove it from the battlefield. I also took the opportunity I had and attacked with the projection token, putting them down to little life and potential death next turn if they don't have an answer. As expected, they did find one against the cleric, and I was a bit greedy trying to go for the win by pumping the gingerbread twice, as they rip off a cast into the fire, but since I had a deadly dispute, it was not that much of a loss. They made some plays on their turn, attacked for a bit, and now I am attacking again with my projection token, but this time they had Destroy Evil for it, making it a bit more difficult for me to win the game and facing tons of damage towards next turn. They attack, I crack the golden egg to gain some life, and I hope to find an improvised club to kill them with the Galvanic Blast if they tap out, as otherwise they can gain 3 life with Lembas. They tap out and pass, and preying on the top decking gods, I ripped off a Deadly Dispute, revealing a cat and a Lembas. I played the Lembas first, decided to send the golden egg to the bottom, and revealed a second Deadly Dispute, which drew me 3 more cards thanks to Ichor Wellspring. I did not find the Galvanic Blast, but a makeshift munitions is good enough, so I drained them for 1 with the cat, played munitions, sacrificed the cat, did 1 more damage to them, brought back the cat by sacrificing the food, sacrificed the cat again, brought it back with the second food, and I finished them off with the Galvanic Blast. In the last match, we got paired against Naya Gates, another deck that utilizes Basilisk Gates to turn their life linkers into deadly threats, meaning the one that gets to resolve their Basilisk Gates first is inclined to win the game. Since I knew the texture of this game, I started to put pressure the minute I realized what was going to happen. The difference between their deck and ours is that they use creatures to gain card advantage while we use our eggs to accomplish the same goal. Still, since we don't add bodies to the board, we are at a slight disadvantage as they can start flooding the board with chump blockers while they can swing freely with their creatures. This is where lifelink comes in handy, and as long as I can keep attacking, I can force them to play creatures and not use their mana on their Basilisk Gates. A few more turns as this passed, but I found Gingerbread that can bypass their creatures. Now the plan is to kill whatever creature they pump so they can gain life, and after I kill their double striker, they concede the game. Against Gates decks, Standard Bearer is a fantastic creature to have as it shuns down the opposite Gates and becomes an instant scoop if they don't have answers for it. I had to move to 5, but the combination of Deadly Dispute and Ichor Wellspring is pretty powerful, so it's better than it seems. I drew a few more cards after interaction and keep Galvanic Blast up if they decided to pump the cat, and that's exactly what I did. I played a second Wellspring, a cat, and now everything started to fall apart as I play a Guardian of the Guildpact, meaning I can't attack anymore with my cat. So I cast a few more spells and play a Gingerbread to block and sack it if they decide to swing, which was unlikely to happen. Still, they did anyways, and I was able to shut down their Visionary. Now the plan is to dig deeper into the library, as I still need to get Basilisk Gate of my own, and without it, it seems almost impossible to win this game anymore, except if we top deck a Standard Barrier, and as soon as I played it, my opponent scooped the game. Now, if you're new to Pauper and want to test other cool decks, click into that playlist. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.